Hello, I'm Shireen Hashim, the CEO and founder of the award-winning Fashion Community Week. Our platform offers support and opportunities for global emerging fashion designers and brands. Since our existence, we have launched and represented brands from 40 countries covering 6 continents. You are watching Fashion Community Speak, where we interview global fashion designers and industry experts who join us to share their fashion journey and expert business advice. Today, our guest is Viktoria Marchev, a Hungarian fashion designer focusing on swimwear. Viktoria experiments with new technology, creating molded pieces from silicone rubber that supports her sci-fi ambience concept. Her designs have been featured in Vogue, British, Italia, and China, Glamour UK, Forbes, Marie Claire UK, and featured on the cover of Story latest magazine. Her pieces have been worn by actor Billy Porter, singer Karolina Wallace, and supermodel Bridget Malcolm. In the fall of 2018, Viktoria showcased her outstanding collection at our Fashion Community Week and Sustainable Fashion Week. We also had the opportunity to create a special photo shoot for her striking collection. Recently, Viktoria was awarded by the Council of Aspiring American Fashion Designers to showcase her upcoming collections for 4 consecutive seasons at New York Fashion Week after debuting her collection at New York Fashion Week in fall of 2018. Wow, Viktoria, so many great achievements. It is so lovely to have you with us today and seeing you after 2 years. How are you?
Hi, Shireen. I'm very happy to see you again. It was really great when I could showcase at your Fashion Week 2 years ago. I really enjoyed it. It was a unique experience, and it's really lovely to see you again.
Wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. It is our pleasure. So, Viktoria, you have a unique process experimenting with new technologies such as building molded pieces of silicone rubber, even upgrading the technology by injecting water between layers of silicone to create the splash effect to build your collection. Walk us through this unique creative process that is also eco-friendly, waterproof, and easy to clean.
Yeah, so as you know from my history, I started out making traditional swimwear. So I was working with flexible materials even before, but I just had so many unanswered questions throughout that process that I wanted to just find some kind of answer that is satisfying enough for me. First of all, it was the lot of waste of fabric when you're creating a collection, that no matter how optimally you want to cut the pattern, there is always some kind of waste. So that was one of my concerns. There were other things that I wanted to make the pieces very unique. So it means that I didn't want mass production. I wanted to be able to create my own patterns and maybe even 3D patterns on a one-by-one basis. And also the fabric itself needed to be flexible. So these were the questions that I wanted answers to, and I felt silicone rubber was something that could really help me with that. And all the other benefits that came with the process actually are just, you know, some extras that I was really happy about. For example, being waterproof or that it's easy to clean. It was not my primary concern, but it just ended up that way, and I'm really happy about it. So the process itself is challenging because I wouldn't say it doesn't exist, because people are using silicone rubber for many purposes, even for garments in a certain way, for little accessories. But I wanted to create my own way of making a garment. So I would say with each and every collection, I'm figuring out some new way, some new approach, how I can really put a piece together. At the very beginning, I was just pouring them flat on the surface of a table, and I just needed to make the patterns that way, that it will make sense, that it can only be joined at one place, how it won't break. So I needed to completely redo my ways of making a collection. And then with each and every year to come, I just added something new. As you have mentioned recently, what I was doing is doing multiple layers of silicone. So it means that after I pour one layer, I have to wait until it gets cured, but not fully cured. So that there are some little details that you have to take care of, and how to make it possible that you attach with pouring a new layer the way it has extra space in between the layers where I could actually inject the water. This is not something super functional currently. I mean, it's not something that you would need on an everyday basis, but I wanted to create something exciting that looks good on the wrong way, good on pictures, and
Well,
that's it.
definitely one of a kind. It's a unique process, Victoria. And, you know, uh, there aren't that many designers I come across who are making everything, like creating the material, and also building the collection as well. And in the recent years there have been exponential growth in the textile industry where it comes to smart fabric and materials, as we often see articles on Fabric Link, Fashion Nerd, Science Daily raving about innovative creation in this area, right? Now, you are also in the innovative space when it comes to creating your materials. With that said, many designers still follow the usual process of utilizing traditional material from a third-party source. Do you think this mindset may shift for designers considering the current times when there is scarcity of accessibility due to pandemic?
I think, yeah, absolutely. There might be a trend towards it. I can personally say that for me, it was already the scarcity of available fabrics when I was back in Hungary, because not many people were creating garments out of just simple spandex. Because let me say, there's 3 months of summer there, so putting too much emphasis on swimwear, it's not the main profile of people creating garments there. So what I saw was that I either order fabrics from abroad in big quantities, or I make people dye the fabrics on a big industrial level again. So it's already the scarcity of fabrics that pushed me into this direction. So the fact that we are experiencing something similar on a global level might have such an impact on others. However, I don't really feel that the traditional techniques need to necessarily fade away. I mean, I do believe that these things can exist besides each other, and they can actually help each other. So
Absolutely.
When I started to work with silicone, I had many new ideas for the traditional sewing techniques. I mean, I feel that when I found new solutions here, I could absolutely apply them in the traditional techniques too. So I think there will be a shift towards that direction, but I think that they have to work together.
Absolutely. I think that will be very synergistic, I would say. Now, being a native designer from Hungary and now residing in New York, you have experienced both of the different markets. What are some of the significant differences you have captured from both markets that you feel are of great advantage to you?
Well, the great advantages, let's start with Hungary, as I started out there, is it is a relatively small country. So in a certain way, how to say, being recognized is kind of, I wouldn't say it's easy, but maybe it's a little bit easier than in a bigger country where there are more people, more markets, whatever. And I feel that I was very lucky at that time when I started out. I mean, emerging designers started to appear one by one, and all the platforms started to build up to support these young designers. That's one thing where I was lucky. The other thing is that I guess that what I did was kind of a niche market.
Sure.
So we did have a few swimwear designers and big brands who were already big established brands, but to do it on a small scale and limited series as I was doing it, it was something very rare. And gladly, I received a lot of support from the Hungarian media, from showrooms, from events. So yeah, that was a great advantage. I think that if I had started out somewhere else in a bigger country where it is harder to get recognized, maybe I would have got discouraged earlier, because it is, you have to prove yourself more, or how to say that. I mean, I've worked hard. I feel that at the beginning, even there, I needed to put a lot of effort into believing that what I do is good enough to present for a wider audience. But I feel that I received a lot of support in that.
Well, that's really great. Thank you for sharing that. I absolutely agree with you. Sometimes our dreams can get lost in a big city, right? And while we're in that conversation of support from your community, I was reading on Hungarian Fashion Insider regarding a mentoring program that has been launched in the field of fashion and design to support Hungarian brands. Now, this will help with gaining business knowledge and achieving long-term success in the international market for Hungarian designers. Now, all powered by High Ventures VC Fund and MDDU organization in Hungary. Now, do you feel such initiatives will help place the Hungarian fashion industry on the fashion map?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, such endeavors were already available on a certain level a few years ago. I would say that maybe in the past 10 years, there have been very significant efforts made to make contemporary fashion more available. Firstly, I would say to raise consciousness about it within Hungary, and that's another level when it can go beyond the borders of the country. But there is a big fashion competition going on for several years now that was very helpful in creating consciousness about contemporary fashion. Many established designers do take part in that. It's connected to a huge runway show, and they connected it together with the Central European Fashion Days, which is not a fashion week, but it's kind of the small version. And it actually is already an international fashion event together with some neighboring countries. This is all supported by the Hungarian government. So I think this was one of the biggest things that happened in the past years that helped a lot in putting Hungary on the fashion map. And there are lots of other smaller endeavors too. So yeah.
Very nice. No, that's impressive. I mean, just your roadmap is just so impressive. From the time I've met you, and from the time you've started, from up until now, so many achievements on your side. So with that said, I am going to ask you for advice you can share with international designers whom are looking into breaking into the USA market, perhaps a roadmap you followed that brought you to the fashion capital of New York.
Yeah, well, it would be a huge exaggeration if I said that I already broke into the US market. But
you have showcased in New York Fashion Week.
I tried.
Us in California, these are already the largest market here in USA. Obviously, you have broken into it.
Thank you. Well, what I can share from my path is what I wanted to make sure is that I make myself visible. So even when I was back in Hungary, I tried to build the brand consciously towards international markets. And I would say it was a mutual process, because it was not just me, but as soon as I tried to be present on international platforms, I received lots of inquiries, and I would suggest the website, not just a label, for every designer, because most of
that website. We've gotten met so many fashion designers from there. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, absolutely. So most of my big opportunities came from there. So all the big fashion magazines, British Vogue, Glamour UK, Continence Traveler, and Vancouver Fashion Week found me there. So you just have to make sure that you are visible. Right. You have to have, of course, an impressive presentation of your collection. So don't save money on that to have a good photographer, nice models, because it's nice to create nice garments, but it's even nicer if you can present it well. And I just say that you have to use that help that is available for that. And basically what I promised to myself is that, because it's a challenging industry, so you have to be prepared not only professionally but financially. You have to be able to plan strategically, and sometimes it doesn't work out. I mean, sometimes things just happen. You cannot make every season work out the way you want to, but yet the time passes by, and you have to be there at each fashion week, whatever. So what I made a promise is to stay present as much as I can. I mean, of course, sometimes you might need to do something else to support yourself, but don't forget about what you're doing, where you're heading to. If you have new ideas, be brave enough to make them, even if you don't have the opportunity to present it. I just feel that once you make a decision that you want something, somehow supportive forces just come and start to help you. And then comes a fashion week, then comes a showroom who wants to represent you. So if you can, try to say yes to the opportunities that come into your life. Try to stay present in fashion. And well, that's what I did. I just tried to present my collections at least once a year. I went to Vancouver Fashion Week 3 times, 3 consecutive years. And then I was contacted by New York Fashion Week. That's how you found me too. So I was invited to San Francisco. And after my first appearance at New York Fashion Week, I won the sponsorship opportunity, which allowed me to showcase again. And many other opportunities came just because I said yes to one thing.
And so many doors opened up for you. Viktoria, that is just so amazing. Those are really great advice, and we are just so thankful that you have joined us today at our interview series. Thank you. Now, I would like to thank our audience for tuning in and watching our Fashion Community Speak interview series. If you'd like to learn about Viktoria Marchev and her work, the technology behind her creation, simply visit viktoriamarchev.com. Tune in every week, same time, on our Fashion Community Week IGTV to watch live interviews with fashion industry experts. All interviews are also available on our platforms such as Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you, Viktoria, again for joining us today. It was so lovely to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
You too. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.